we ready, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. If everybody please stand. Mr. Chapel, call upon you to do the invocation, please.
Oh, Lord, help us to see this budget that goes through tonight. Make sure that we're doing everything right for the city. Bless all our firefighters and our police force, that they will have another good year and be safe. I ask this in your name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody please be seated. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Wait. Ms. Barrow? Here. Ms. Boterford? Mr. Chappell? Mr. Haney? And Mayor Guthrie.
Yeah, I'm here. We only have one item tonight, very simple. We're going to reread the budget like we did a month ago. We made a couple mistakes, and it doesn't change the numbers or anything, or just the dates. And Suzanne, if you don't mind, would you please come to the podium and go over this with the council for me, please?
Is that coming from here?
No, it's probably someone's feet, honestly. There's a wire or something.
Or your feet, if your feet on one of the wires.
Yeah.
Mr. Chappell, did you say that?
I think it's you there, that one right there.
Feel it moving? Go ahead.
Okay. So we were made aware from the state that we had advertised our budget incorrectly. We advertised our budget for our final hearing as a final hearing. It technically had to be advertised as a tax increase. The tax increase is coming because of a rollback rate. I don't know if you guys are all familiar with what a rollback rate is, but that is what the property appraiser has calculated the tax rate would be. That would be the equivalent to what we would receive this coming year based on property value increases. So that rate, if we had left property rates the same, we could have said a 3 mil. Because property rates increased, the rollback rate is 2.7178. That would have generated the same amount of tax revenue as it did last year. We left the rate at 3. So because our rate is at 3, the state technically considers that a tax increase because the rate is higher than the rollback rate. Last year our millage rate was 3. This year our millage rate is 3. So the only increase is because of property value increases. That generates more tax revenue for ad valorem. So we had to correct that. We had to advertise it as a tax increase. The budget that you have in front of you, the highlighted yellow items are the ones that have changed. So we increased the budgeted ad valorem tax. That therefore reduces the deficit in the general government fund. That is the deficit that Public Works, the utility department, funds with the shortfall from general government. And so for this budget to go ahead and move forward, that then freed up money in utility fund because they weren't having to transfer as much over to general government. And so for this piece, I put the remaining balance in reserves. That reserve balance was originally $100,000. It is now $137,000, I believe. The council can always, just through a vote of a minute, move those line items to somewhere else. We don't have to amend the budget as long as we are not increasing our total appropriation. So anytime throughout the year, we could move that budget line item out of reserves and somewhere else if you guys wish, as long as we don't increase appropriations.
Council, any questions? Any questions? Okay, we need a first and a second.
Public comment?
No, ma'am. We need a first and a second.
There's no public comment?
You should let him speak. on
Even though we're under
the
that
agenda.
already? Okay, yep, if you want to.
Thank you. Pat Fosick, 1344 Stratford. I just want to make sure that I understand and maybe everybody else understands. So because the values went up, the value of the property, we're still at 3 millage, but the city is going to end up getting more money, which the city needs. Okay. Mayor Kelly first started saying none of the numbers changed, but I guess they did. As if I understand what you said, the city is making another $37,216 ad valorem, and rather than go back and stick that in somewhere in the budget, you put it in the reserve. So, because I didn't see a difference, I'm sure there probably was one.
There wasn't. It went in reserve.
Okay. Well,
There's no
then,
numbers changed.
It's gonna be, are you looking at the advertised?
It's mathematical error.
yes, I'm looking at the advertised piece.
It's in the utility fund in the reserves, it was originally 100,000, now it's 137,260.
Right, and both sheets of paper that I have show it at 137. So in the summary that we saw in July, August, September, it was 100,000? Okay, so the number did change. I just wanted to make sure. And I understand we're not spending anymore, we're putting it in the reserve, but I just wanted to understand that. And then, last question, because we haven't, it's December, we've got the CRA money coming in, which is great. I know Tanya and I had a conversation about that some months ago. I'm not aware that any had been spent to date. Are we anticipating, based upon this appropriation here, that we might spend some of it this year on the businesses and the CRAs?
We will have, once the new year starts, we will have a meeting of the members that make up the CRA board.
Which is you guys? Yeah,
And once we do, we will formulate a plan on how we intend to spend. But if you remember, we chose to use the CRA income for some other projects that we already had going in the city.
well,
Do
I
you
thought one of
recall?
those was the fence around Melindy Pond, which I hear we're not doing, so, and
No, there was never a fence around Melindy Pond.
there was
That's
a
just-
unanimous vote for that,
For what?
for a fence around the Melindy Pond.
Well, that's not, it was never in the budget.
I realize that, but the council said we're gonna have it. So
Okay.
is that what I thought we were gonna get that from the CRA money, but now I hear we're not gonna put a
Well, we
fence
built
up.
the pond with the CRA money, ma'am,
Okay, that's fine.
but there is no requirement to have a fence. There's no requirement to, I don't recall us, do you remember, council, voting on a fence?
I remember the conversation.
Do
Absolutely.
you only what?
I remember the conversation.
Conversation we had, yeah.
Conversation and there was a vote. I'll provide you with the,
But
place
that's
on the-
from CRA funds, is it
Right.
not? This
Right.
is, this is a
The
city
budget.
budget.
right, but I'm just saying, it happens to be on this sheet of paper, so I wanted to ask that question.
Oh, I
Because
get you now.
CRA hasn't come up at any of the other city council meetings. So I'll provide you with the information at the next council meeting. Thank you,
you,
Mayor
ma'am.
Kelly, I appreciate it.
Can you tell me the date that vote occurred?
Not off the top of my head, but I will.
Can you tell me the names of identify the council members that told you that?
I was the council member that brought the issue up about the fence.
Of having a chain link fence,
Yes, we had that conversation.
right? Then we discovered that the chain link fence was not required because of the safety aspects of it. And I didn't know that we voted to spend any money on a fence. The reason for that was we didn't know how much it
Yeah,
was.
because there was discussion about how much is it gonna cost. You
We had
said
no
that
way
it
of knowing what it would
was
cost.
$80,000. There was a vote. I will provide you with the video, and if I'm wrong, I will stand up at the next, meeting and apologize.
You don't have to apologize. People make mistakes all the time.
I beg your pardon?
You don't have to apologize. People make mistakes all the time. So, okay, council.
I do have to add something to that, as we were,
Please come to the podium, ma'am. State your name and address for the record.
Diane Coates, 1521 Dover Road.
Yes,
As
ma'am.
we were talking about that fence, it was brought up from maybe somebody behind me or another, or up here, when they talked about the fence, because they thought it would be a risk because of that big pond and
That's
kids.
right.
And Mr. Haney was the one that said fence should probably go up for any kind of lawsuits that can happen. With the buildings next door in Cherry Lane, those are a bunch of kids in there. You know, and if you already had motorcycles tearing everything up, you're gonna have more of a problem with kids in the summer. With no fence there, they know with a fence, their parents will say you can't go there. Really.
Okay.
So I don't,
What is your suggestion, ma'am?
put up a fence so that the city's not sued for some kid that falls in there. Your response, now I remember this, your response at that time was, we don't need a fence due to the way it was constructed. It gradually slopes down.
You're right.
Right. Well, I remember that because you said so.
That's true.
But that doesn't mean a fence isn't warranted. You get
So
one of these
I
little
would
kids.
ask you this. Do me a favor, Diane.
What?
Drive around Bay County and look at all of the retention ponds, big or small or same. None of
They
them
don't
have.
put a fence over there by the storage place. Yeah, they got a fence around there. Over there at the lumber yard, they got a fence around there.
And we have one at the one on Lance Street. There's a
Yeah,
fence
there
on
are
that.
fences.
On Lance Street.
Lance and Lake, the retention pond between Lance and Lake and Arrow and whatever other street it is,
Okay.
there's a fence there.
Well, council, do we want to put a fence
Well,
in?
well, Mayor, you're here on the budget.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, ladies, for your comments. I appreciate that.
Put it in the budget.
The budget's already done.
Okay. Need a first and a second to vote.
Are we voting to read?
Voting
Just,
to read.
just read it again.
I'll make a motion that we read.
We have a first and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Okay, Ms. Sparrow,
Yes.
Ms. Boterford? Yes. Mr. Chapel?
Yes.
Mr. Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes, thank you.
Resolution 2024-407, a resolution of the City of Parker, Florida, adopting a budget for the fiscal year October 1, 2024 through September 30, 2025, and providing an effective date. Now you would need a motion to adopt.
Adopt them. I need a first and a
I'm
second.
gonna make the motion to adopt, and the only reason I'm doing it is because paperwork corrections on this.
Okay,
Not because I agree with it, but because the paperwork needs to be corrected.
okay. Got a first and a second. Would you call the roll?
Okay, Ms. Sparrow,
Yes.
Ms. Boterford? Yes. Mr. Chapel?
Yes.
Mr. Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes. Thank you very much. Everything else, Mr. Sloan?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Diane, if you have a minute, I'd like to talk to you if I could.
Be safe Friday.